I hooked up with my stepbrother and now he's blackmailing me. What should I do? Yes, I admit it. I'm an absolutely vile human being for hooking up with my stepbrother. Okay, but he's really, really hot. We're both 18, but this all went down when we were 17. A little backstory. My parents got divorced 5 years ago and this affected me severely. I was so angry at them for separating us. I began to have a lot of anxiety about it. My dad was the one to move out of the house, so my mom and I tried to make the best of it. Not 2 months after their divorce was finalized, my mom met another guy, and he was the perfect man. He was really good looking and the CEO of a huge company. My mom's 45 and he's actually 10 years older than her. Being the angry teen that I was, I didn't want to accept it. She invited him over so that we could meet, but I was pretty much an asshole the entire time. To be honest, after the dinner, I actually ended up liking him. He was really funny, he made my mom laugh, and he understood my humor. All of this, of course, made my mom really happy. A few days later, this man calls me and tells me that he wants to propose to my mom. So he essentially wanted to get my permission first. So I said yes. That's when he moved in with his son. I decided that I would try to make the best of it. I was always so angry that I just needed to give myself a break. And the first time that I met him was when he moved in. As soon as he came in through the door, I was literally speechless. He was so hot. Like the best looking guy that I had ever seen in my life. I'm sorry, you guys, I have hiccups right now. And we couldn't stop looking at each other. We all sat down to have lunch, and he and I just stared at each other the entire time. That's when my stepdad told us that after the wedding, we were all moving to a new house. Like I said, he has a lot of money, and I was actually really excited about this. A new house meant a new start. But guess what? My stepbrother started coming to the same school that I did. So we would basically go to school together every single day. That's when we both found out that we had so much in common. While we drove to school, he would always turn to look at me, and I would ask what's up, and he would say nothing. But one night he came into my room and he kissed me. There I am making out with my stepbrother in my own bed. Mind you, I was asleep when he came in. As soon as I realized he was kissing me, I got out of bed. That's when he told me that he knew that we were both attracted to each other and that we should just do it. I stayed quiet and I didn't know how to respond. I felt super shy and embarrassed. Then he grabbed me and kissed me again. I told him to leave my room and he did. But after that, the sexual tension was real. I always caught him staring at me. Even at school, he would stare at me. And he would go out of his way to bump into me. One day we were driving home and he pulls over on a deserted road. He started kissing me and I couldn't resist. We ended up making out in his car for like an hour. After that, he told me that he wanted me to be his girlfriend, but in secret, and that he didn't want our parents to find out. But I said no because it's wrong. We live in the same house and our parents are married to each other. Of course, he got angry. Now he just grabs me and kisses me whenever he wants. And he says that I am his girlfriend even if I don't want to. And he told me that if I don't accept, he'll tell his dad about us. I really like him, but I think it's wrong. What should I do? Story time about how my husband's trying to convince me to become an escort. My husband and I have been married for almost 6 years. We did get separated for 2 years, so technically we've been together for around 4 years. We had separated during COVID mainly because he doesn't want to have kids and I desperately want to have children. And yes, when we got married, we did talk about having kids and he said he wasn't sure. But after we got married, he basically told me that he did not want to have kids, which is obviously something that I did not sign up for when I married him. I began to resent him a lot because I could have been with somebody else, someone who wanted to have kids. But instead, I spent years with him only to find out that he did not want to have kids. I ended up asking him for a break, and that was basically during COVID. So we were basically broken up for all of 2020. This is where I'm assuming he started getting his ideas. We finally got back together in 2021. I had gone on a couple of dates with some really terrible guys, and I basically thought to myself, well, you know, my husband's not like that, so I guess I should get back with him. As soon as we moved in together, he started talking about escorts. He told me one of his friends uses an escort service, and he thought it might be a good idea to start one. After he told me he was thinking about starting his own escort agency, I completely lost it. First off, I didn't want my husband to be involved in that, and secondly, I just think it would bring so many problems. He told me that we should just think about it, and I asked him to show me numbers. You know, how much do people make? And he didn't know anything about it. He had done zero research. After that, we didn't speak about it for a few weeks. Not until he asked me what I thought about being an escort. At first, I was confused, like me being an escort or what I thought about escorts being escorts. I told him escorts can do anything they want as long as they're safe and happy. Then he said, well, we should look into you becoming an escort. I started to laugh and he's like, no, I'm serious. And that's when it hit me. This whole time he was trying to convince me to become an escort? His own wife? What does that say about us? What does that say about the relationship and how he feels about me? So I turned it around and told him that he should become an escort. Then he said, I'm not as good looking as you, so I wouldn't make enough money. That's when he confessed that he had signed me up to 2 different escort websites, and he had conversations with guys pretending to be me. That's when he confessed that he had already signed me up to several escort websites, and that he had been having conversations with different men pretending to be me. Then he pulls out his phone and shows me all the conversations. Most of the men were trying to make me their sugar babies, and were offering me upwards of $5,000 a month just to go on dates with them. The look in my husband's face was of excitement and happiness. I was mortified. I couldn't believe that my husband was even entertaining the idea. After After he finishes showing me all of the messages between him and these other men, he tells me that we could be earning about $22,000 a month, and all I'd have to do is just go on dates with these guys. I started to cry and he told me that I was overreacting, and that most women would kill to be in my place. I told him these men would expect much more than just going on dates, and he swears up and down that they won't. Now the thing is, we have had money trouble, so I see where he's coming from, but I just don't know. He's still trying to convince me, and he shows me messages from these guys every single day. Most of these men are in their 50s, and one of these guys was actually really attractive. The money sounds so good, but I don't know what to do. I feel like I would resent my husband eventually. I mean, what if I fall in love with one of them? What should I do? Story time about how I found my husband's secret phone. I found 5 dating apps and 2 secret girlfriends on his phone, and I can't even begin to tell you what I found on Instagram. Up until this point, my husband and I had the utmost respect and trust for each other. I never once thought he was capable of doing this. Literally every woman says that when they find out their man is cheating. Around 6 months ago, my husband started a new job. He's in tech and makes a lot of money, so I've been able to stay at home with our kids. We now have 2 kids, and they're both 2 and 5. Our life is amazing. Our parents live near us. We always make time for each other and go out on dates. We even take solo trips on the weekends. Last year, we went to Bali for 2 weeks. My point is, we always make time for each other. When he started his new job, he started earning more money, but this also meant that he took on a lot more work. He was always so stressed out. My husband and I met in college, and we studied the exact same thing. We both worked for the same company. Eventually, I retired to take care of our kids. So when he got his new job, I offered to help him out with his work. He was actually really grateful for this, and we were both doing a really good job. He was working from home 3 days out of the week, so it was a great situation. We were spending time together, working together, and the kids were spending more time with their dad. His new job gave him a new cell phone, and this is the cell phone that I would usually use to help him out with his work and his laptop. I started using his work cell phone to help him out with his job, and he kept his own cell phone. This is when I started noticing that he would make a big deal about losing his phone. Anytime he would misplace it, he would go absolutely berserk. Now, I thought it was just because he was stressed about work, till I realized it wasn't stress. He forgot to silence his phone one night, and the notifications were going off. I woke him up and asked him to turn it off. My mind did not go to him cheating. I thought it was work-related stuff. Then I realized it was his personal phone that was going off, not his work phone. The next day, he apologized for having his work notifications on, and I said, but it wasn't your work phone, it was your personal phone. And he said, no, it wasn't. And I said, yes, it was. And that's when he accused me of being paranoid and crazy. And that's when I knew he was cheating. I had to keep it cool, though. I was feeding the kids in the kitchen when this all happened. On this day, he was going to go to work. I knew that he was going to take his personal and his work phone with him to the office. So what I did was change the phone covers on each phone and flip them upside down. He grabbed the work phone thinking it was his personal phone. He put it in his pocket and went to the bathroom. And he left his work phone, which was his personal phone, on the countertop. I told him that maybe I should keep it just in case I needed to answer emails, and he said yes. He left, and I had his phone all to myself. As soon as I opened his personal phone, I went straight to the messages, and I found his 2 girlfriends, Laura and Missy. I started reading through the text messages between his 2 girlfriends. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. He had been together with the first girl for 2 months, and the second girl just for 3 weeks. And in the messages, he was totally bad-mouthing me. He was telling them that I was crazy and abusive, and that's how he justified his cheating to them. I also read in some of the messages that he was complaining about our kids, how spoiled and ungrateful my kids were, and that's why he wanted to escape the house to be with them. Let me tell you, our kids are so considerate and so loving towards us. They're very affectionate children, and they never get upset at their dad whenever he has to go to work. So for him to be talking badly about our children just made everything 10 times worse. After reading the messages for about 2 or 3 minutes, I went to the bathroom and vomited. I was physically ill. His messages were so perverted too. I know that when you start a new relationship, you're always trying to impress people, but he just took it too far. After I vomited, I went back to his phone and kept reading the messages. This is when I found out that he was paying both of these girls rents. So the whole time I'm helping him with his job to earn money for our family, half of that was going to these women. I got sick again. After I calmed down for a few minutes, I went back to his phone. Then I found his dating apps. His dating profile was so disgusting too. He was all about fitness and mental health. He also claimed that he was single in his dating profiles. So on top of him cheating on me, he was cheating on his 2 girlfriends. This time I didn't bother reading all the messages he had in the dating apps, but I did notice that he was going on dates with multiple girls several times a week. Later on, I found out that the whole work situation was a lie. He was working from home the entire time, but going on dates. I took screenshots of everything and went straight to my lawyer. I filed for divorce that very same day. When my husband came home, I confronted him and he denied everything. Even with all the proof, he's still denying it. He's not speaking to our children, and you better believe I'm getting half of all his money. Bye. Secretly hate my husband, but I can't leave him. Disclaimers in on my story time listed on Instagram. My husband and I have only been married for 2 months. We dated on and off for almost 7 years. So when he finally proposed, I was actually really happy. The problem is that we never lived together before we got married. He never wanted to move in with me when we were dating. He also had this thing where he wouldn't want me to come to his apartment randomly. He would always schedule times where I could hang out with him at his apartment. This all seems suspicious, but I really wanted to marry him, so I just decided to overlook those things. But now that we're married, I see why he didn't want me to come over and why he had all these these strange rules. It turns out that he's incredibly messy, lazy, and is super picky about the food he eats. So now that I'm his wife, I'm constantly having to clean up after him. Every single time he goes to the toilet, he always leaves skid marks, or for some reason, he always has like explosive poop and it goes everywhere on the bowl. So every single time I go to the bathroom after he does, I'm always having to clean it up. And it makes me so angry that I have to clean up after him that I have begun to hate him. Also, he's super picky about his food. We can never go to restaurants because he never wants anything on the menu. And if we ever do go to a restaurant, we have to go wherever he wants. I love all types of cuisine, especially Indian, Mediterranean, Japanese, but he thinks it's gross. He comes from a very American family. He grew up eating chicken nuggets and grilled cheeses. To him, anything with some spice is way too much. That means I can't cook what I want because he always complains about the smell. Thankfully, he's got an office that's 30 minutes away. So when he leaves, that's when I cook. But I have to make sure to air out the apartment before he gets home. I'm always doing his laundry and cleaning up after him. Every single time he shaves, he leaves hair everywhere. I actually hate this man now. I told him that I don't want to live with him anymore, but he freaked out. He's begging for me to stay, but I'm so unhappy. What should I do?